please wait just a moment. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, all of you. Myself, Dr. Abhishek Chandra, Department of Environmental Science and Swachhata Action Committee of Sri Venkateswar College. I invite all of you in this webinar on the rainwater harvesting for the sustainable development. And this webinar is jointly organized by the Mahatma Gandhi Institute of the Combating Climate Change. And today's our speaker is my close friend, Professor Anil Haritesh. I know him in the longer time. So apart from this, I invite my student coordinators, Gargi and Anamika, to look forward this webinar in this one. So Gargi and Anamika, hand over to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Gargi. I hope everyone is healthy. So I'm starting the event.
You please increase your volume. Volume is low.
Yes, sir. Just 5 minutes, sir. I think, sir, now sound is
Yeah, okay.
okay, sir.
It is a little bit okay, but not good.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Gargi. I hope everyone is healthy. And today I'm starting the event with the blessings of Ma Saraswati.
Shri Saraswati Namostute Varade Shri Saraswati Namostute Varade Shri Saraswati Namostute Paradevade Shri Saraswati Namostute Paradevade Shri Saraswati Namostute Paradevade Shripadi Gauri Padi Guru Gukha Vinute Vidhiyuvade Shri Saraswati Namostute Paradevade Shripadi Gauri Padi Guru Gukha Vinute Vidhiyuvade Shri Saraswati Namostute
Dr. Abhishek, please convey our congratulations to this boy who rendered the song so well. बहुत अच्छा गाए हैं. Last time भी very impressive. माता का बहुत अच्छा वंदना है ये.
Yes, sir.
Convey my
Sure, sir.
congratulations and wishes to him.
Okay, sir.
Super.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Now, Gargi, go forward.
Yes, I hope it blessed every person's souls present here. So, handing over to Anamika.
May Ma Saraswati bless us all. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Ravindra sir to address all the participants and for opening remarks.
Very good afternoon to all the distinguished delegates and participants of today's webinar on rainwater harvesting for sustainable development, being jointly organized by Mahatma Gandhi Institute for Combating Climate Change and Sri Venkateswara College, University of Delhi, South Campus. At the outset, I would like to welcome Professor Anil Hartash, Professor in Mechanical Engineering Department and who is specialized in Environmental Engineering Department, and who has taken his time to join us in this webinar for an hour session. Thank you very much, sir, at the outset. And I would like to make a brief presentation about his profile. Dr. A.K. Hartash is professor in the Department of Environmental Engineering, Delhi Technological University. He has about 16 years of teaching experience and has around 20 years of research experience. His area of interest is environmental monitoring of polycyclic automatic hydrocarbons, PAHS, water quality assessment, wetland monitoring, advanced oxidation process, and bioremediation. He has around 70 publications in the form of research papers, conference abstracts, articles, and edited book. His research on biodegradation of PAHS has been conferred the status of fast-breaking research in environmental engineering by Thomson Reuters and Science Watch. Dr. Hartash has been conferred state-level Outstanding Faculty Award for his contribution in academics and research, and he is also the recipient of Commendable Research Award of DTU consecutively for 4 years, 2017 to 2020. He has been on the panel of subject experts in National Science Center, Poland, Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Government of India, Shastri Indo-Canadian Institute, Terry School of Advanced Studies, etc. He is member of editorial board of Indian Journal of Waste Management and Applied Chemical Engineering Journal. Dr. Hartash has organized and participated in several national and international seminars, conferences, and workshops. Sir, we are proud to have you on our webinar, and I hope with your presentation and deliberations, there will be a lot of things to take home, and we'll all benefit by hearing you on rainwater harvesting, its methods, and technology available. Thank you very much, sir, once again. I think we will be starting the session with Dr. Hartash. Now request
sir.
you to make your presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome, sir. You can start your presentations.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindra. And thank you, Dr. Abhishek, for this opportunity to interact with the students and other participants who have joined for this webinar. And since it is on rainwater harvesting, we can right from the beginning understand that it's important in respect of management and conservation of water resources. So I hope the screen is visible to all of you now.
Yeah.
Screen is visible, and all the participants are requested. If you are having any question, you can write on the question answer round, so we can take the question at the end of the presentations.
Sir, make it full screen, sir. Slideshow.
Sure. This is visible to all of you now?
Exactly. Nice.
Okay. So I have been asked by Dr. Abhishek and Dr. Ravindra to make a presentation on rainwater harvesting. And we shall be going through different general as well as technical aspects of rainwater harvesting. And we will be sharing some research related results also. And I do hope that this would be an interactive and productive session on rainwater harvesting. So first of all, what do we call, what exactly is rainwater harvesting? We generally have different versions, different opinions about what rainwater harvesting could be, but there are some nitty-gritties, some minute details which need to be taken care of. In layman terms, we call it as collection and storage of rain. Collection and storage of rain rather than allowing it to run off. What normally happens in a natural process, after the rainfall, the water, whatever can percolate into the ground, would go down and join as groundwater. Rest of it would flow over the surface. The water which flows over the surface is referred to as surface runoff. So instead of allowing the water to run off, we collect it and we store it. And this collection and storage of rainwater, it is specifically from over the roofs of houses, different buildings, etc., etc. So the rainwater which is collected from roof-like surface, roof or roof-like surface, and is redirected to a tank. This is the normal practice. Need not necessarily be a tank. It could be a deep pit. It could be directed to the aquifer. It could be a recharge pit. It could be a reservoir with percolation, etc., etc. So the rainwater which falls over the roofs or roof-like structures, over the buildings, it is collected and then it is directed into a tank. Through the tank, through the recharge pit, the water may go down or it may be used for different activities. Now, listen carefully. The water which is collected from over the roofs, it is different. This is referred to as rainwater harvesting. The water which falls over the surface and which drains over the open surfaces, the drains, roads, creeks, etc., that is referred to as stormwater. It is different from stormwater harvesting. The point 3, that this rainwater harvesting has got slight difference from stormwater harvesting. Stormwater is the one which does not fall over the roof or roof-like structure, rather it falls over the open surfaces. And these open surfaces could be agricultural fields, could be plains, could be roads, etc., etc. So both are slightly different. When we are referring to rainwater harvesting, we are specially referring to rooftop rainwater harvesting. And next, this harvested water, it can be used for different activities. Of course, it can be stored for a long-term purpose. It can be used for groundwater recharge. It can be used for horticulture, in agriculture, for livestock management, for irrigation, domestic use, etc., etc. And depending upon what use do we intend to the stored water, we will have to accordingly ensure that the quality is fit for the designated use. If the water is to be used for agriculture, probably it requires no treatment. But if the same water is to be used for drinking, the same rainwater which has been harvested should be given proper treatment before it qualifies for the quality as drinking water. So whatever use it is intended to, it may or may not need treatment before the use. So this is a brief about the rainwater harvesting. What new is there over this slide is rainwater harvesting refers to the rooftop rainwater harvesting. The one which happens over the open surfaces is called stormwater harvesting. Why do we need rainwater harvesting? Especially in India. Is the screen visible to all of you, full screen?
Yeah.
Because I am able to see the toolbar over the top and it's hiding some of the content.
No, nothing is being hidden.
Okay, that's fine then.
No, sir, it will be full visible.
Fine. It's probably over my screen only. So why do we need rainwater harvesting, especially in countries like India or other areas also? First and foremost reason that we have very limited freshwater resources. So whatever water in the fresh form, in the pure form is available, we need to harvest it. We need to collect it. We need to utilize it in a sustainable way, in a wise way. So firstly, limitation of fresh water. Secondly, with the effect on air quality, with the emission of more of greenhouse gases, the climate is changing at a very fast rate. And depending upon the rate of climate change, the outcome of climate change, some areas are receiving even less rainfall these days. So change in climatic conditions is also forcing us to preserve our freshwater resources. Wherever rainfall is sufficiently available, there is of course no issue related to availability of fresh water, but there are a lot of regions, particularly in India, where rainfall distribution is very uneven. If we talk in terms of India, the distribution of rainfall is highly uneven. We receive most of the rainfall in 3 months of monsoon. So it's the monsoonal period when we receive maximum of water, and during that period, the quantity of water is so large in volume that during monsoons, frequent floods are being observed. But once these 3 months are over, for the rest of the 9 months during a year, we do not have that much availability of fresh water. So considering this uneven distribution of rainfall, uneven availability of water around a year, we need to conserve whatever is there available with us, because for the other 9 months, particularly the summer months, we have very lean resources of water available with us, and that's the period we face maximum scarcity of water. So if rainwater harvesting is being adopted, there is slight respite from the scarcity that we observe, particularly during the lean and stretch period of summers. Changes in land use pattern, of course, is one of the very important reasons. Earlier, sufficient land was available, open land, the natural land. Now the surfaces are gradually getting paved, getting say plastered, because the cities are spreading, the infrastructure is being developed at a very fast rate, and the surface of the earth is being covered with concrete every day. So with the changes in land use, there is relatively less percolation of water into the ground, particularly in cities like Delhi. Almost all the regions, except a very few, are concrete. And these surfaces do not allow the percolation of water into the ground and recharging. And we are dependent over the groundwater for a number of activities. But this is the reason that the groundwater table is receding day by day, because recharge is less and extraction is more. So these activities force us, compel us to go after rainwater harvesting. And since it is the purest form of, since rainwater is considered as purest form of water in natural environment, so collecting it and using it would be a very good option, because this water requires minimum treatment, since it is the purest form. If we are extracting groundwater, it may need treatment. If we are extracting surface water from the rivers, ponds, streams, etc. are polluted these days, and that water requires a significant treatment before use. Whereas rainwater, since it has minimum impurities associated with it, with minimum requirement of treatment, it can be used for different activities. And this can be a good option to cover the demand-supply gap also. We have a huge demand for water, the supply is relatively less. If this sort of option of rainwater harvesting is being taken up, the demand-supply gap may be narrowed down. Now, the rainwater which we receive, its quality largely depends on air quality, because the water has to travel through the atmosphere before it reaches to the ground. So it's only the component of atmosphere which interacts with rainwater. Whatever gets dissolved in the atmosphere would be present as an impurity in water. So air quality governs the water quality, rainwater quality primarily. And of course, once it has fallen over the ground, whatever sort of impurities, dust, dirt, silt, sand, etc., are present, those also become a part of the water, either in suspended form or dissolved form. So depending upon what sort of conditions, what sort of activities are prevalent at a particular place, will accordingly have varying quality of stormwater or rainwater. Mostly what we observe is that the rainwater, before it touches the ground, if the rainwater is collected, it's slightly acidic in nature. And the slight acidic nature of water is, again, an indication that there is absolutely nothing present in the atmosphere. If it is very acidic, then of course there are acidic impurities present, otherwise not. But once it has touched the ground, there are other impurities of natural or anthropogenic origin because of different human activities also. So number of alkaline species get dissolved in water, and this results in slightly alkaline pH of water. So this is the reason surface water or groundwater is slightly alkaline, whereas rainwater is slightly acidic in nature. So considering all these factors, that we have limited supply of water, we have limited resources of water, and rainwater is the pure form of water available. Therefore, we can take up rainwater harvesting, and this would be a win-win situation if rainwater is being harvested and is being used too close to narrow down the demand supply gap. This is over a broader, over the global scale. What we observe here is that this hydrological cycle, the units given here are 1,000 cubic kilometers. This is the representation of hydrological cycle. Almost 430,000 cubic kilometer of water evaporates from the seas and oceans. A major portion of the Earth's surface is covered by seas and oceans, almost 2/3. And that leads to evaporation of water, and most of it, almost 391 out of 430 units, comes down as precipitation over the seas and oceans itself. It's only the 38 units, 38,000 cubic kilometer water, which comes over the surface of Earth and which precipitates either in the form of snow or rainfall. And that water, depending upon the time it takes, because if it is snowfall, depending upon the temperature prevalent at that particular place, the snow is going to melt, particularly during hot seasons, and that would add water to the streams and rivers. If it is rainfall, it flows directly as surface runoff. And during this period, some of water percolates into ground, but that also flows subsurface, finally joins the sea. So 35 units as subsurface flow join the sea. It's only, listen carefully, we got 38 units from the seas and oceans, 35 units as groundwater subsurface flow. So we have limited techniques, limited technologies, limited resources to tap these 35 units which are lost as subsurface flow. But the remaining 3 units are lost as surface runoff or surface flow. These 3,000 cubic kilometers of water is the basis of, is the support for meeting all the demands for fresh water. The demand could be for industry, the demand could be for agriculture, the demand could be for thermal power plants, the demand could be for domestic activities. So out of a lot of water, 430 units, it's only the 3 units of surface water which are available to us and which are supporting our day-to-day daily activities. Now, considering these 3 units, if most of these units are lost as surface runoff, will not be wise, because the surface water resources are getting polluted. Many of them are not being used on account of being polluted now. So we'll have to see that these 3 units which are lost as surface runoff in the form of stormwater runoff are tapped, are collected, and are used. So we need rainwater harvesting or stormwater harvesting. So this is very, very important, because we have very limited amount, very limited volume of water present for daily use. Once the water is harvested, it can be, say, intended for different uses. It can be used for day-to-day activities at home, washing, bathing, etc. If the water quality, which is tapped over the roofs, which is tapped as stormwater, is not that good, it can at least be used for flushing. If the water quality is good, can be used for washing. With slight treatment, it can be used for drinking, cooking, agricultural activities. If the water quality is not poor, can be taken up for different other activities, washing cars, servicing, etc., etc., cleaning the floors, mopping, etc. So we intend different uses depending upon what sort of quality the water represents. But make sure, if the water quality of rainwater which has been harvested is good, do not waste that water in washing, say, washing the floors, washing cars, servicing, cleaning, etc., etc. Rather, use that water for drinking, for cooking, for bathing, etc. The wastewater so generated can be used for flushing, etc. So we'll have to accordingly decide the use of water depending upon its quality. So Another good news that rooftop rainwater harvesting is mandatory. The government has set certain guidelines that rooftop rainwater harvesting would be mandatory in all building bylaws. Although the guidelines have different criteria. The criteria varies from municipality to municipality, state to state, or from one country to another. As far as India is concerned, we have strict guidelines for rooftop or rainwater harvesting. The government of Karnataka has said that if the area is more than 2,400 square meters, rainwater harvesting mandatory. For Goa, 2,000 square meters. It's 10,000 square meter for industrial areas. So Bihar, 1,000, Rajasthan, more than 300 square meters. For Delhi, if we say, if there is rooftop of more than 100 square meters, rainwater harvesting is mandatory. Now it is the responsibility of municipalities, responsibility of residential societies, responsibility of the owners, developers, etc. to take up rainwater harvesting. If the already existing buildings are not taking up rainwater harvesting on account of constraint of space, on account of constraint of infrastructure, it's okay. But whatever new buildings are coming up, there it is mandatory. But if some owners, some residential societies or developers are, say, bypassing this rule one way or another, inadvertently or intentionally, or by any ways, that's not good, and that is a problem on account of the enforcement of law. Now, apart from the rooftop harvesting, because it's more, the rooftop is sufficiently available in urban areas. If we move to the rural areas, the rooftop has relatively lesser area. But such rural and remote areas have large open spaces, and those open spaces can also be taken up for water harvesting. But in that case, it would be referred to as stormwater harvesting. So both are the cases of rainwater harvesting, but rainwater harvesting specifically, technically refers rooftop, but includes stormwater harvesting as well. So there are different rules. The last point says that for the state of Uttar Pradesh, if there is some residential society coming up with an area more than 20 acres, in that case, at least 5% of the proposed area should be used to develop a pond also, a natural pond. So this has become mandatory in many of the states. So the bigger residential societies have areas more than 20 acres, and they will have to say do the landscaping, etc., develop the ponding area for water also, so that the same water is collected naturally and is being used for groundwater recharge or use in some other activities. So that has become a mandatory aspect now. Now, slight details about the components of a rooftop rainwater harvesting system. First of all, the first component is catchment. Catchment is the rooftop or the rooftop area. So this is referred to as the catchment, the rooftop. Then we have conveyance. Conveyance are the pipes which are used to deliver this water from the rooftop to the treatment facility. Third unit is the first flushing. The first flushing is used to remove silt, dust, dirt, etc. And this can be treated as a treatment unit also. Filter unit can be in series with the first flushing unit, or it can be running parallel. What we need to do is simply switch the flow from the flushing unit to the filter unit once most of the impurities in initial rain have gone into first flushing. The third is storage tank, and the storage tank stores the treated water, partially treated water or initially treated water. Fifth is recharge pit, and this recharge pit is made for groundwater recharge. The same recharge facility, if there is a possibility of overflow, some of water can be used for use in lean period or for later period. But if it overflows, this can be directed to a groundwater recharge. In areas where there is an issue with the storage, the percolation rates are high, it can directly be fed to the groundwater recharge also, or to the recharge pit. Before it is fed to the recharge pit, it needs treatment. So this is a repetition of the same thing. The rooftop is referred to as the catchment, and whatever water is collected, then with the help of gutters, conduits, pipes, etc., is delivered. These are referred to as conveyance. The initial water, which comes as washing of roof, etc., is referred to, is subjected to first flushing, then it is referred to a treatment facility, and from there it can be, say, directed to a storage tank or to groundwater recharge facility. So I hope these things are clear to all of you. But before that water is delivered to a storage tank or to the groundwater recharge facility, it needs treatment. And this is a very important aspect of rainwater harvesting. If the water is not properly treated, it would deliver all the dissolved impurities, all dissolved pollutants to the groundwater or to the surface water. So very, very important to treat that water. And the treatment is not that technical. It can be taken up very easily using simple configurations of a sand gravel filter. So in this case, a filter with, say, the gravel, etc., can be made, and this filter can separate the suspended impurities. Whatever impurities present in suspended form, silt, clay, etc., would be removed using this gravel filter. So water percolates down through the gravel filter, and these gravels can be graded from bigger to smaller or smaller to bigger size, depending upon what sort of treatment, what sort of impurities are present in water. But after it has passed through, this cinder have been added. Cinder is also gravel-like composition, but it's mainly from the industrial waste. And it may have the presence of, cinders may have presence of certain metals also, like iron. If iron is present in the gravel, it helps bind with phosphate, because phosphate is one of the important pollutant present in rainwater. So the industrial waste which has been converted into gravel is called cinder. The cinder may be used. It's sufficiently available. Then in series, we can use activated carbon. Activated carbon removes most of the dissolved impurities. And then finally it passes through a gravel bed. This gravel bed is provided so that this activated carbon is
Sir,
not
I am not
lost.
getting your audio. Are others able to listen, sir?
No, it is the visual, both PPT and the audio.
Artha,
is
sir?
clear.
Are you getting the audio or not?
Yeah, we are getting the audio.
Yeah, got it, sir, properly.
Okay. Might be there is an issue with the connection at your end, Dr. Ravi. Okay, finally, we have a top layer of gravel, and this top layer of gravel is provided so that this activated carbon does not flow out with the flow of rainwater, which is treated in the filter unit. So this is simply a cover which avoids the loss of activated carbon. This can be one of the configuration for the filtration of rainwater. There could be other configuration also. The inlet may be directly fed over the charcoal layer, and most of the impurities can be removed here itself at the first step. Then it passes through gravel, and then again to the second, where gravel and fine sand can be used. The fine sand can remove this as other impurities also. And later it can be taken out, can be sent for storage. So the filter can be made in different configurations, but the filter material remains almost the same: sand, gravel, and activated carbon. If some industrial cinders are there, they can also be added. These remove most of the suspended and dissolved impurities, and that way we get almost okay quality of water. But it cannot be directly sent for drinking purpose. Mind it, it cannot be used for drinking purpose directly. For drinking, it needs disinfection and, if required, some other treatment also. Once it has passed through the filter unit, then it goes to the storage unit or to the groundwater recharge pit. This is how a groundwater recharge pit looks like. The water from the inlet, it is treated and then is sent into a recharge pit, into a well. This is the ground level. This line is the ground level. So water is sent to this recharge pit here. This is a sort of well. This is the ground level. Water is delivered here, and this water fills in this pit, and along the pit runs a concentric perforated. See, this pipe is perforated here. The water through these perforations can enter into this pipe. The water enters into the pipe, and there again some porous formations can be added to the pipe. Finally, the same water through the recharge pit would be delivered to this porous formation where aquifer is present, where most of groundwater is present. So once it is treated to the desired level, the water can be forced through a vertical shaft of recharge pit directly into the groundwater. So that way, the recharge is easy, is fast, and most of the water is delivered directly to the aquifer itself. So this is the way groundwater recharge pit works in case of rainwater harvesting, in case of groundwater recharge. Now, there are different types of rainwater harvesting system, and these major types of rainwater harvesting system are based on how the water is delivered for a particular use. This diagram is almost here, this side, this is almost self-explanatory. The runoff is over the rooftop, and this is the catchment. Then gutters, pipes, etc. are the conveyance. This is the filter unit, and where the water is filtered. After filtration, the water is delivered to a storage tank. Now in the storage tank, there is a pump installed. This is the important feature in first type. The first type is direct pump-based system. The water, with the help of a pump, is pumped for different activities, is delivered for different activities. So in this case, one pump is used in the storage tank itself, and it is a submersible pump since it is installed in the storage tank. So for different activities, the pump can be operated, and it would be delivering the water to respective use. But mind it, in this case, there is only one pump which has got submersible nature, which is installed in the storage tank. This is the first option, where what we call as direct pump-based system. The second is, again, it's indirectly pumped, but again a pump is involved. We generally use booster pumps in this case, and these pumps are not installed in the storage tank this time. These pumps are installed outside the storage tank. So these pumps deliver water for different activities. Now we have valves installed at different pipelines. Say this could be a pipeline for flushing, this could be a pipeline for washing, this could be a pipeline for drinking. And we have valves installed at every pipeline. The flow through the pipeline or the pressure of water through the pipeline can be maintained using these different valves. If high pressure is required for washing, etc., then the valve is kept open and maximum pressure is delivered. But if relatively less pressure is required for some other activity there, using this valve, the pressure can be regulated. But again, one pump outside the storage tank. So this is the second type where booster pumps and valves are used. It's indirectly pumped method. Now the third type is indirect gravity method. In this case also, a pump is used, and this pump delivers water to an overhead tank. The water which falls over the roof is subjected to treatment, then is collected in the storage tank, and from the storage tank, it can be pumped to our overhead tank. Now in this case, this overhead tank may be filled once in 24 hours, depending upon the tank's capacity. If the capacity is high, the tank may be filled once in 2 or 3 days, or once or twice a day, depending what volume of tank is installed overhead. So in this case, we do not need to run the pump regularly whenever the water is required. So in this case, the water is pumped, delivered here, and along gravity, it is delivered in the house, in the building for different activities. So this is the third indirect gravity type. Fourth is purely gravity-based rainwater harvesting. And this fourth type, gravity-based rainwater harvesting system, is also referred to as water butt. and it delivers the water directly into a tank. From the tank, the water can be taken out. The water flows with the help of gravity only. There is no pump, no input of energy required for pumping the water. This is the simplest form of rainwater harvesting system, which is popular particularly in rural remote areas where water scarcity is being observed. Rest of the systems, indirect gravity based, indirect pump system or direct pump system, can be used depending upon the availability of resources, depending upon the standard of living. But all these configurations have the only task of conserving water and say collecting rainwater and using it for some other activity at a later stage of time. This gravity based system, in this picture, it looks very fancy. Probably from a developed country, it looks fancy, but similar systems, it would be difficult to install under Indian conditions because this requires a lot of cost involved. The idea is the same, but under Indian conditions, other configurations are used. The tanks can be used depending upon what sort of material, how much cost can be say willingly put into putting up that system. The water from the rooftop, particularly in rural remote areas, forest regions, can be directly allowed to enter into a conduit. And suppose the water quality is good, this can directly be fed into a tank, can be stored in a tank. And from this tank, the water can be taken out, installing a tap here and or a tap at this level. Whatever sort of use we intend to, how much water do we need. The other option is this one. The first, it can be operated using a valve. The first flushing can be removed or it can be say directed to a groundwater recharge pit and extra water can be stored here. Once this tank is filled, this water can be redirected to the groundwater recharge pit. So this is how this can be done. The other configuration. Similar configuration here in this picture at the bottom. The water can directly be delivered into a tank and there is a tap installed here at the bottom. So whenever the need be there, the water can be taken out. So this is the way. The other pipe which runs downward, it can be directed to a recharge pit once this tank is filled to its capacity up to this place. So this can be a machinery based tank or this can be a PVC tank also, depending upon the availability of resources, availability of money at a particular place. So these are all gravity based rainwater harvesting system, which are very popular in rural and remote areas, and these are very effective, very useful. The other type is stormwater harvesting. Till now we were talking about rooftop harvesting or rainwater harvesting. The other type is stormwater harvesting, and stormwater harvesting, it excludes the roof surface. It includes the open surfaces. Since we have sufficient land available as an open space, agricultural fields, hills, plateaus, etc., etc. So we say stormwater harvesting is normally done over a larger scale. The catchment is relatively larger. And most of this stormwater harvesting is intended for agricultural use. It is mostly being used in agriculture. But of course, it is serving the other purpose of livestock management, day-to-day activities, drinking water, groundwater recharge, etc., etc. But majority of it is intended for agricultural use. Even after it has percolated down into the groundwater, the same groundwater is extracted and used for irrigation. Because wherever open spaces are present, particularly in India, we are agrarian economy, we are growing crops or vegetables one place or other, wherever it is, the land is available. So this is the major reason. Of course, apart from it, groundwater recharge is also one of the options in stormwater harvesting. And in this case of groundwater recharge, tree plantation is a complementary feature. Because in order to arrest that water, in order to hold that water, a good tree cover is required. So this comes as a complementary feature of groundwater recharge. Even otherwise, if tree plantation is not intentional, if groundwater recharge is sufficient, there is sufficient availability of water in the soil or moisture in the soil, the vegetation starts growing naturally. So that way we get complementary plant cover in this case. It can be used for domestic purposes, regulated supply, but after treatment can be used. If the quality is good, without treatment also. And it's a good way for storage during lean period, particularly during dry summer season. It's an alternate to poor water quality, particularly consider the case of fluoride. Okay, we'll have a brief discussion about this point as an alternate to poor water quality. Safe groundwater, particularly in the state of Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, etc. Most of the groundwater is contaminated by fluoride. And as we go down, the water table is gradually receding. As we go down, the fluoride content keeps increasing. So that way, the groundwater, although it is considered as a pure form of drinking water, it is contaminated. So groundwater for drinking purpose is avoided. But rainwater is excluded. It has no fluoride concentration present in it, as long as it is not coming in contact with the subsurface rocks, subsurface minerals, which are fluoride rich. So most of the water in these regions, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, etc., when it falls as rainwater, it is diverted through channels, tunnels, etc., and is collected in large tanks. And these large tanks are maintained at village level or community level. And these are called, in local language, these are called taka. In English, we say these are large tanks, and there they are called taka. The water is filled in taka, and that water is specifically used for drinking purpose, because otherwise the groundwater delivered for drinking has the risk of fluorosis involved. So many times the rainwater which is collected, the storm water which is collected and is stored in large tanks, it's an alternate to poor water quality. And most of these taka or tanks or village ponds, these are maintained by the community, maintained by the panchayat at village level. Village ponds are also maintained by the village panchayat in most of the cases. Of course, maintaining these tanks or constructing, erecting these tanks and then maintaining and delivering water, it requires a lot of investment. It requires labor during the construction phase. And this investment as well as labor, many times it is funded by the government. If not, the communities come together, they contribute, certain NGOs, certain agencies, charity, do the charity, and that money can also be used in erecting such structures. But it involves most of the coordination with the community. Of course, in this case, once the water is filled in the taka, there could be issue related to right to water. Who owns the right to this water? So in this case, most of the regions, the community as a whole or the panchayat, it sets guidelines, and that has the right to water. It is equally distributed to everyone. That could be one of the issues. Conflicts are always there, even if it is a tanker delivering the drinking water to a colony, or it is a large water body which is being used for storage of water. There are always conflicts associated, even at local level or even at regional level. We do have number of water conflicts, which are operating between two different states. We have national and international level. At national or international level also, the right to water is subject to conflict. So these are different issues, but stormwater harvesting, because it is on a larger scale, it can also be very useful, improving the water quality, improving the availability of fresh water. So this is how one small tank related to stormwater harvesting looks like. When it rains in this region, the water gradually percolates or it comes as runoff and it is collected in this tank. The water can be directed to this tank through underground channels also. There is some treatment unit and it is filled here. Some of the water from this tank goes down into the ground, recharges groundwater. Rest of it can be taken out, can be extracted for whatever use it is intended. Sometimes the tank is to be constructed. Sometimes the natural soil if it is rich in clay, solves that purpose. We'll have to make a depression only, and that depression holds most of the water. If it is, say, if it has got slightly impermeable nature. So any of the say material can be used for such tanks. So this is one representation of stormwater harvesting. It's a picture of a tank which is there in the state of Rajasthan. Let's have a look at the possibility of stormwater harvesting in Delhi also. We undertook a research activity wherein we wanted to understand what sort of rainwater quality is present over the state of Delhi, how much water is there, and if we have the possibility of collecting this water, treating and reusing it for different activities. So in this case, we selected different locations spread all around Delhi. We have avoided this region because most of it is agricultural with respect to the land use. We wanted to see, particularly the region which is highly urbanized, what impact, what sort of quality of rain and stormwater runoff would be observed in Delhi. So we targeted on these regions. The rainwater samples were collected from different regions, rainwater as well as once it has fallen over the ground, the stormwater runoff, both were collected. What we observed here is that in case of rainfall, the water quality parameters are almost in the range, the general parameters, almost in the range of drinking water. It is the rain which has not touched the ground. Okay, so the rain has a good quality of water. The pH varied from 5.7 to 7.9 and almost in the desirable range. Of course, for drinking, 5.7 is not desirable, but since it is rain, in case of rain, it can be safe. The good thing is it's not less than 5.6. Had it been less than 5.6, there would have been a contribution of air pollution in it. So 5.7, air pollution is not contributing much. The study was taken up in the year 2021 only. And one of the reasons the contribution of air quality is not here is just before this rainfall event, we had heavy rain induced by the cyclone Taukte. For that reason, maybe the contribution is not observed. Now, when we observe most of the dissolved impurities, this one, picture A, is for rainwater. We have mostly bicarbonate, and bicarbonate is a component of dust. After it, we have calcium. Calcium again is major component of dust. Magnesium, major component of dust which is present in the atmosphere. Sulfate, nitrate, etc. These may come from anthropogenic activities, but their contribution was relatively less. Once this rainwater has touched the ground, picture B, once it has come in contact with the ground and then runoff took place, we observed that again, bicarbonate is still high, but apart from bicarbonate, nitrate has increased in concentration. So nitrate is one important component, one important pollutant getting dissolved. The second important is chloride. Magnesium was already present. So this bicarbonate, magnesium, calcium has gone down, but chloride, nitrate have increased. These are the major pollutants once the rain has fallen over the ground. Now, considering the nature of nitrate and chloride, these can easily be used using simple treatment units. So that way, we observed that even after the water has fallen over the surface of Earth in Delhi, in highly urbanized areas, this water can be subjected to treatment. We do not have that toxic impurities present in water. Of course, we have avoided the examination of heavy metals, etc. We have not shown it here, but we did the analysis and the heavy metal concentration was not that high. And simple treatment using a sand gravel filter with some ion exchangers could remove most of the pollutants. This is again area-wise distribution of the rainfall. This was in commercial areas, industrial, institutional, residential, roadways, and highways. So this is the concentration of different metals, different cations and anions which are present in runoff. And what we observed here is there is not much of pollutants present in runoff of Delhi. And so we observed that it can easily be treated. We installed a simple sand gravel filter, and using this sand gravel filter, we observed certain. The first one was a simple gravel filter. The second was a sand gravel filter. So this one on the left hand side is a simple gravel filter. Here it is a sand gravel filter. We observed that as far as TSS is concerned, sand gravel filter improves all the suspended impurities. Calcium is removed, magnesium is removed, total hardness is removed, chloride is also removed by the efficiency of 55%. Nitrate, which got dissolved because of the contact with water, almost 80% of that nitrate can be used using a simple sand gravel filter. So there lies a very good possibility, even in Delhi, that the rainwater is tapped, is collected, is treated using the simplest of filters, and can be used for groundwater recharge, can be used for cleaning, mopping, etc., etc. So this is a good possibility in Delhi also. So this was a paper that we published from that research work. It was published by an academy, a scientific Academy of Natural and Physical Sciences in Italy, and the journal is being published by Springer. Major outcomes were that, of course, ammonium nitrate, TOC were higher, but these can easily be removed. Stormwater can easily be treated using a sand gravel filter, and the water which goes out finally can be used for different purposes. We also calculated the surface water depending upon the rainfall. We knew how much rainfall took place. We also know the surface area of Delhi, and based on that, we calculated that within a year, there could be saving of approximately 300 billion liters in Delhi alone. That much of water, if it is tapped, if it is partially treated, can come up as a solution for the demand-supply gap in Delhi alone. But we need to develop the willingness, we need to develop the infrastructure, we need to develop the collection system for the stormwater runoff. But this is not a big task. The stormwater runoff already goes into different drains. Before it joins a drain, if it is subjected to a treatment facility, most of it would be treated. Next is storage. Of course, that's a problem. But even if it is the extra volume of water, it is not stored, even if it goes into the drain, at least the drains would be relatively cleaner, would not be obnoxious. The river Yamuna, which flows through Delhi, would be a lot cleaner using that approach of simple treatment using a sand gravel filter. So this is an option. This is again a picture. Click to it. It's from Rajasthan. What we observe here is around this tank, certain trees are also grown, and these trees provide shade to this tank. As long as shade is there, evapotranspiration losses from these tanks would be minimal. So that way, integrated practices of agroforestry can be clubbed for the water conservation also. In earlier cases, what we were studying is this is a constructed tank. Stones and masonry work has been involved. But some regions where the soil is already silty or clayey, a simple depression can serve the purpose. This is a village pond from Tamil Nadu. It was developed, a lot of such ponds were developed with the help of World Bank soft loan for watershed management in the state of Tamil Nadu. So that way, the simple tanks can also serve the purpose of water harvesting. And ultimately, of course, there would be some losses through evapotranspiration, but at the same time, most of this water is recharging the groundwater aquifers. This is another example of state of Rajasthan. We consider that if it comes to water scarcity or dry region, it is being represented by the state of Rajasthan in India. And therefore, the government of Rajasthan undertook a scheme. That scheme was called Mukhya Mantri Jal Swavlamban Abhiyan, abbreviated as MJSA. In MJSA, the government undertook the task of putting number of pits, watershed or rainwater or stormwater harvesting structures along the hilly slopes. The water, when falls over a hill, enters into these pits. These pits do not allow the water to run off as easily. Most of this water would enter into these pits, and through these pits, this would gradually be recharging the groundwater. Wherever possible, if natural depression are present, the large sized pits were created, constructing the earthen dams. And along these dams, large volume of water was collected. And this water, as long as it is present over the surface, can be used for livestock management, can be used for agriculture. Otherwise, whatever water has percolated down helps improve the green cover, helps recharge the groundwater. So that's the beauty of this project, Mukhyamantri Jal Swavlamban Abhiyan in Rajasthan. And it is treated as an iconic success story, particularly in northeastern regions of Rajasthan. Many areas which were earlier dry, representing semi-desertic or desertic conditions, have grown green now. Those areas have permanent water bodies, all the surfaces have turned green, people have started undertaking the profession of agriculture again. The people who resided in such dry villages had migrated to cities in search of employment. They had to leave their land, leave their home, and such was the case that almost the whole village migrated to a city. But such activities have compelled the people to come back to their villages, to come back to their homes. It's a sort of reverse migration scheme in which there are sufficient opportunities available even at that place. People have again started agricultural activities or horticultural activities. And to tell you this, many of these regions near, say, Bundi, Alwar, etc., they grow a lot of vegetables and flowers in these regions. And those vegetables and flowers come to the market, most of the markets in Delhi. So most of our supply for fruits, vegetables, flowers, etc., is met with the supply from such regions. So such could be a transformation of a very simple approach of stormwater harvesting. So during the first year itself, this scheme was undertaken in approximately 3,500 villages, and there was a lot of improvement. Of course, the government funding was involved. At the same time, public participation of local people was also involved. Simply putting up government money, where they will not be able, would have not been able to convert it into a success story. The willingness of community to get involved in such activities was also very, very important. Of course, they were paid some say minimum wages in the form of the schemes which were taken under Manrega or some other schemes. So this private-public partnership is very, very important. The role of local communities, the role of NGOs, the role of volunteers, etc., is very, very important, considering the implementation of such stormwater harvesting schemes. This is a success story. Many of you must have read about. The man visible here at the bottom right corner is Shri Rajendra Singh. He is called the Waterman of India, and he revived a river called Arwari River. The Arwari River had gone dry, completely dry in the year 1950. This is the picture. There is no trace of a river here. All this region was dry. So this man, Shri Rajendra Singh Ji, he undertook the activity of reviving this Arwari River in this region. Of course, he held number of parliaments, number of sessions, number of interactions with the villagers, local communities, with the government also, and involving the funding from government, involving the hard work put up by the local communities. They gradually constructed certain water harvesting structure, developed the watershed, cleaned the catchment area, and ultimately what they observed is the water gradually arrived. The water gradually started filling up in the rainwater harvesting structures there. With time, it was observed, with time, the green surfaces increased, the green cover increased, and with time it was observed that the water which was collected in these structures has started overflowing, and the overflow of such waters has revived the Arwari River, which was dead around the year 1950-60. The river is almost a perennial stream these days, almost a perennial stream. It flows throughout. And there is again a lot of reverse migration in this region, lot of employment opportunities in this region, lot of income related opportunities, lot of improvement in the standard of living of the people in this particular region. Of course, environmental benefits, ecological benefits are also associated. So this is how the simple practice of harvesting the water, conserving it, collecting it, and utilizing it for other activities has indirectly associated benefits also. Those benefits could be environmental, ecological, could be social, could be economic. Now, this is not new. Reviving the structure, harvesting water, this is not a new technique. This is layman science, and we had almost forgotten it. Our ancestors did the same. You would find a number of forts or fortresses, number of temples which have a water storage tank in its premises or located just outside the premises. So these were the water harvesting structures built at that time, and these were permanent structures where whenever it rains, the water was diverted and collected in these tanks, and the same water was used throughout the year. So that way, our ancients knew the sense of collecting this water and utilizing it throughout without facing the problem of water scarcity, without facing the problem of waterborne diseases, without facing the problem of, say, water-related conflicts, etc., the social conflicts. So these boundaries and the water storage tanks are a common feature in India. Most of you must have observed it, and these can be seen even in Red Fort or other regions. The picture at the bottom, this one, is Shustar Historical Hydraulic System in Iran. This is a hydraulic system in Iran, and it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This water harvesting structure uses number of tunnels. The water from different surfaces, different catchments have been diverted to a central place. From here, it has been diverted for different uses. Use in agriculture, use for drinking, use for recreation, etc. Use for undertaking the trade, etc. So this is an iconic example of water harvesting, and it was 5 centuries before Christ. This structure was made by the locals in Iran 5 centuries before Christ. So this is not new, and it is still there. This structure is still there in Iran. You can read more about it. Shustar Historical Hydraulic System. So not only confined to India, such techniques, simple practices were prevalent around the globe. Wherever we face water scarcity, we say that necessity is the mother of invention. So that's what has happened in the regions where water was scarce. And these days, we are heading towards scarcity of water. So it is high time we come back to the very general practices of water harvesting. This is again an example from India. It's a historical lake. It's located near Alwar. It's a beautiful place. And this is a man-made lake. This lake is located near to the Alwar city, and a dam has been constructed here. The natural flow here was obstructed, making an earthen dam. And all the water which comes from this stream, this is the stream, this is a river. So the whatever water collects here is collected in this lake. And this lake is the lifeline of people around this region. There are 5 or 6 villages scattered around this lake. It has an area of around 10 square kilometers. To be exact, it's 11.7 square kilometers. It was built in the year 1842 by Raja Vinay Singh. He was the king in Alwar at the time. And the structure is still there. and it is still serving the purpose of collecting water. The same water is being used in agriculture, is being used in drinking. An open aqueduct runs from here and delivers water to Alwar city, which is located 18 kilometers away from here. And overflow from this stream is collected downstream in Jaisamand Lake. Whatever overflow takes place from this Silicate Lake, it is collected in Jaisamand Lake in Alwar city, and the water from Jaisamand is again used for drinking purpose. So these structures serve the purpose of collection of water and serving the community for a long period of time. It's a century-long practice. We need to revive those. So what's the use here? This lake, Silicate Lake, stores around 14 million liters of water and overflows to Jaisamand Lake, used in agriculture, drinking, industrial use. It supports a population of about 3.15 lakhs in Alwar city. This is based on the census of 2011. It supports tourism, it supports recreational activities, it supports aquaculture. Aquaculture means the fish are grown and chestnuts are also grown in this. And it supports agricultural production also. So number of activities. Of course, it is a site for conservation of biodiversity also. Lot of migratory birds arrive at this place. And this lake is a breeding ground for wild crocodiles. I've seen it myself, I've been there. And this is a wonderful example of stormwater harvesting and water conservation, soil conservation, conservation of social values, conservation of communities, etc., etc. Apart from all those features, it generates employment, improves standard of living, and it arrests migration of marginalized communities in particular. These are the true pictures of the same place. Lot of crocodiles there. As per the census, there are around 2,000 crocodiles in Silicate Lake. Lot of fishes. Of course, this man is feeding the fishes, but we could not get a picture of the fish catch, which is normally done. The fish catch from Silicate Lake, it is for around 7 months. It does not take place during summers. The government has banned it. During the summer, no fish catch, and it's approximately 2 tons of fish per day. Approximately 2 tons of fish are caught from this lake and delivered to the Gazipur fish market. And the fish catch from this lake, Silicate Lake, is sold at almost double the price of normal fish, because that is considered to be the fish from pure water. A lot of migratory birds arrive at this lake. Of course, the local biodiversity is also there. Chestnut production, जिसे हम सिंघाड़ा बोलते हैं, the lot of chestnut is being produced in Silicate Lake, and that way employment generation, improvement in standard of living is also there. Recreational activities in Silicate Lake, a very common feature. You can visit this place at any time. It's a say tourist attraction around Alwar city. So those are the benefits of stormwater harvesting, indirect benefits, which we do not directly look upon. When we say rainwater harvesting, we have generally the idea that water is collected and stored for groundwater recharge for different activities. But we do not know what other indirect benefits could be associated with stormwater harvesting. So number of social benefits, number of economic benefits, number of environmental benefits. See this picture here. This is a well. The water is hardly 10 or 12 feet. The groundwater table is hardly 12 or 12 feet here because of this well is located just next to the Silicate Lake. Count the number of tube wells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 engines have been put here. Consider 5 engines are extracting the water from one well, single well. How much volume of water would be present here? And this is because of that man-made structure for stormwater harvesting. That's the Silicate Lake. So this is how the overall benefits, lot of benefits can be extracted from stormwater harvesting. So we carried out a study on this region, Silicate Lake, and we published a paper also in the Journal Environmental Management. And we observed that because of this lake, the groundwater quality, it's specifically groundwater for drinking and agricultural use. The groundwater quality was very good because of this Silicate Lake. The regions away from this lake do not report that good quality of water. But because the fresh water is collected here, the groundwater quality is also good around this region. This is the picture very next to the Selisade Lake, lot of agricultural activities. And with this, I conclude my lecture. Thank you. My email and mobile number is given. If anybody is interested in undertaking some work related to save water, you are more than welcome in DTU. We'll be happy to host you, to interact with you. That's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your enlightened lectures, sir. Now I open to our student coordinator to take the questions. If any question is the question answer round.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So the first question is by P. Harshvardhan. Sir, rainwater harvesting is mandatory and feasible. Why is the government not installing it in all government institutions, parliament, ministerial offices of PS officers, government educational institutions, etc.? Also, is there a plan to install such models in the upcoming government projects like Central Vista, etc.?
Anamika, I could not hear you what you said initially. There was some lag of audio. So can you paste this question in the chat box?
Yes, yes. So if rainwater harvesting is mandatory and feasible,
Yes.
why is the government not installing it in all government institutions, parliament, ministerial offices, and residences? Residences and offices
there.
of IS or IPS officers, government
is-
educational. Yes, sir.
It is there. Rainwater harvesting structures are there. Wherever possible, if some of the buildings are old, some of the construction is very old, in that case, rainwater harvesting structures are not there because there is limitation of putting a new infrastructure under a building. So that's difficult, but wherever the new buildings are coming up, rainwater harvesting is mandatory and it is being done. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
My institute also, it was an old building, but we have developed some rainwater harvesting systems also at that time, which gets into some pond-like
Yes.
thing. It
Yes.
was a area with brick kilns. Earlier, bricks were being manufactured in this area. So some source of collection is there using this rainwater. And we are even asked to give mandatory filing to Jal Board every time. So we have these structures and this is how it works and we are doing this. Otherwise, you have to put up. Every government institution is now asked to do this. All the group housing, so even my group housing society is doing a lot of work on rainwater harvesting. There is no escape from this to anybody. May it
Yes.
be government. Our government institutions are supposed to mandatorily do it. There is no escape from it.
Government buildings, big residential societies, government offices, for all such bodies, it is mandatory. It is being done in the Parliament House also, in the Supreme Court also, in other government building also. But for small residential houses, which are owned by an individual, there could be some omission in this case. And depending upon, again, how much
Feasibility.
the
It's a matter of feasibility. Yeah.
Yes. So some places it's difficult to force over an individual, but wherever some community is involved, it's mandatory and it is being taken up. I tell you the case, there were some old buildings earlier which had no water harvesting structures. But once the law or these guidelines were issued, and if there was availability of open land in those areas, rainwater harvesting structures were erected at a later stage. The government of Delhi has put up rainwater harvesting structure in the past 5 or 7 years in number of government schools. Earlier there was none. Now it has been there. It's there these days.
Thank you so much, sir. So he's also asking that is there a plan to install such models in the upcoming government projects like Central Vista, PM Awas Yojana, etc.?
Yes, these are there, and even DMRC is undertaking this, the rainwater harvesting or stormwater harvesting. It's mandatory for them also. Even in the Central Vista project, whatever open spaces are there, they are directly delivering water to ground. And wherever possible, some construction is there, the water is collected, and that water is subjected to groundwater recharging or for some other use after treatment, or if no treatment is required, of course, can be done directly. Very recently, the Pragati Maidan, where the trade fair, etc., were being held, there is a lot of construction going on there. And initially, the rainwater harvesting structures were developed at that place, and all those buildings are coming up in a way that whatever rains fall over that place, that rainwater would be harvested, would be collected, would be used for groundwater recharge or for some other use.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Are there any more questions?
No, sir.
I think.
Now, I would like to invite Dr. Robin, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank our speaker, Professor Anil Haritash, for giving a wonderful and insightful lecture on rainwater harvesting, and it was really interactive and a lot of details he discussed, and I think it was really insightful for our students whoever joined today. And then I would like to thank our principal, Professor C. Sheila Reddy, Dr. Ravindra Palakutti, Dr. Abhishek Chandra for organizing such a insightful webinar on rainwater harvesting, and the student coordinators Anamika and Gargi for their support for the event, and all the other participants who were present today. Dr. Nisha as well, she was there for this particular webinar as well. So all of them, I thank all of them for making this event a really successful one. Thank you everyone, and we look forward to having more such events in the